I'd like to ask Charles what his opinion is of the Declaration of Independence. I got the impression reading Puritan's Empire
That book?
that the Continental Congress had no authority for being. Am I correct in thinking that this august body of rebels was illegitimate?
Well, I don't know. What's legitimate? Let's say that we got a group of private organizations in all 50 states to send us delegates to, I don't know, the Bonaventure Hotel in downtown LA. And we declared that from now on we're the government.
Wow.
And let's say we had some tremendous cause, like, oh, I don't know, gay marriage was being imposed on the country or something. Something impossible to believe, but, you know. Imagine that something that just flew in the face of everything that the vast majority of Americans pretend to believe was being imposed on us. And then the Bonaventure Assembly, as it's called, declared themselves the new government of these United States and ordered everyone to swear allegiance to it. And if you didn't swear allegiance to it, you'd be punished.
Wow.
Well, what then? I don't know. How would you feel about that? What would your judgment be? Now, you might say, where do you get the authority to do this? Well, the answer is, I told you, private organizations in all 50 states. True, but those private organizations are made up of the wealthiest people in each state. Now, see, doesn't that make a difference? We're back to New England and the money again. So you've got all these wealthy magnates sending delegates here to the Bonaventure Hotel. We make this declaration. And from now on, Los Angeles is the capital of the United States, and we are going to wage war on the Washington government unless they surrender. What's wrong with that?
Gosh, it's a little bit weirder in the modern context.
Oh, well, you see, if you want to examine the morals of an issue, you have to remove it from its historical context. If you're going to, unless you're going to say that morals are entirely situationally based, but I can't do that as a Catholic. So we're trying to get at the abstract principle. So, is the Bonaventure Assembly a legitimate gathering? Remember, it represents all the wealthiest people in each of the 50 states, just as the Continental Congress did in the 13 colonies. Doesn't wealth alone confer some kind of legitimacy? And in many cases, these are the very people that are already running their local state assemblies.
Okay.
You've got a few judges of state Supreme Courts in on the deal. Maybe even one or two state governors. Ah, see?
Okay.
And aren't the government in Washington violating all we hold dear by imposing gay marriage on the entire nation through judicial fiat? This is an impossible situation, ladies and gentlemen, of course. Now, we're not talking about some minor thing like taxation. We're talking about something that goes to the very heart of morality. Wouldn't that confer legitimacy on the Bonaventure Assembly?
You know, pardon me for saying it, but you almost make it sound like a convention of micronations. Wealthy people, but it's still, I get this image of the micronations coming from all over.
Yeah, but the difference is that in these cases, a lot of these guys have big power in their states.
Yeah.
Like they have control over large segments of the National Guard and that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's not, and they've been conducting at home purges of people loyal to the Washington government. So, if you hold a commission, say in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and some of your brother officers say, "Well, who are you loyal to, Bonaventure Assembly or the Congress in Washington?" And you say, "The Congress." You're out of a job.
It's uncomfortable thinking about this comparison, the Bonaventure Assembly.
Why?
Something's off.
What's off? Oh, because we'd never have the guts to do anything like that over something as important as gay marriage. But wealthy people back then, over something important like money, now they would get excited.
The government back then was less established. We have things settled. Everything is settled now. It wasn't settled back then.
Oh, it was settled, all right. It was as settled as it is now. It was quite settled. They had, let me tell you something. A couple days ago, December 13th, was National Guard's birthday.
Okay.
Now, what is the National Guard's birthday, you ask? Well, the National Guard of the United States is the bulk of the state militia of the 50 states. It owes its birthday to December 13th, 1636, when the colony of Massachusetts Bay, His Majesty's colony, organized the first 3 militia units in this country. Well, they were actually, it was Jamestown, 1607, but they, for some reason,
That's
I guess
okay.
the 3 units in Massachusetts have had a continuous existence one way or the other since then. All right, so that's the birthday of the National Guard. They swore allegiance to King Charles against all his enemies, foreign and domestic, and that was the beginning of the National Guard of these United States. From 1636 to 1776, 140 years, they were under the king. In other words, they had been in existence 140 years before they went into rebellion. They were settled. What was 140 years ago, back, reading for this moment? 140 years ago was 1918, less 40, is 1867. That's a lot of time, 1867 to the present. It's a long time ago.
Well,
No, it's 100, I don't know where my math is, 1874 or 1877, but it doesn't matter, it's still a long time. The year before, we had both the Centennial and General Custer got wiped out with his command. Now, that's 140 years. That's a long chunk of bloody time. That the first colonies have been sitting around.
there was a very low standard of living
I can
compared
see.
to now.
You've never been to Compton, have you? What has that got to do with anything? He was asking what the legitimacy of Congress was.
Okay.
And remember something else, that the vast majority of laws under which most colonists lived were made not by the king, not by Parliament, but by the Colonial Assembly. But who could vote for the Colonial Assembly? The answer is a small minority of white men, white Protestant men.
Okay.
Legitimacy? Time to run back to the Bonaventure Assembly.
Okay.
You're never going to look at that hotel the same way again driving
No.
past it. You're going to say, that's where they
You've
met.
ruined it. You've killed it.
You're going to say, that's where they met. I know. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're finished listening to this, you look up the Bonaventure Hotel and see where history was made.